So you mentioned that you've got a good relationship with a couple of the, without being insulting to them, more minor bookmakers, betting exchanges. I mean, it has the betting exchange sort of had its day now. Do you think is it on the way out?
I think the main betting exchange has regressed massively. I think they've kicked off so many good punters for RG and stuff like that when there's no RG issues, and they're well aware that there's no RG issues, and it's just, I think it's the blind leading the blind at one of them. That used to be really good, even just like the amount of mistakes on the machine, on the exchange, and just markets not being set up properly, non-runners not being taken out properly. Like, it's just I think the whole system is just kind of there. Doesn't make us that much money. Kind of just leave those people in charge of it and just leave it tick away until it regresses even further into nothing, basically. I think one thing about BetDAC and Matchbook is they are having a go. Like, they're massively up against it with market share, and Matchbook could be doing different things as well as just having the exchange. But I find that they're really easy to talk to without being weird about it. Like got in touch with the main guys at BetDAC straight on a call with me, trying to seed markets for them, do a few bits and pieces for them, and like, how can I help you? How can we have a mutually beneficial relationship? Basically, I know you're going to have to charge me a certain rate of commission if I'm taking money off your market makers and whatever way you're going about it, but try and explain it from my side, you explain it from your side, and can we meet in the middle somewhere, and that's mutually beneficial to everyone. I think the main exchange is, there's just nothing there for that. Basically, it's just kind of, these are the rules, this is it, you apply or you don't, and there's no leeway, there's no one who's able to make a decision in that regard. Matchbook, the guys at Matchbook, like spoke to Jesse May a good bit on Zoom and had calls with him, and just again trying to find something in the middle with Matchbook where we can just basically both help each other out. Sports that I'd be basically looking at the exchange and just seeing where they've got gaps and things like that, and just saying, well, this is what I can do for you. I think I'll win this out of it by doing that for you. Can you, what rate of commission do you want for that service that I can provide, or whatever like that? So I find Matchbook and BetDAC have been real good to deal with, and sure, that might not last forever. In 3 months, I might have a call with them and they just say it's not working out for us. Don't think we can find anything grand. But there's someone with a brain cell picking up the phone and having an intelligent conversation back with you. And I think I hope they get bigger than they are, both of them, because they're having a go anyway.
Okay, now this next bit, I've got to be extremely vague because I do want you to talk about it if possible. But your name was popped up in relation to a few successful bets. Well, that successful even made the headlines for various reasons. How do you feel about bookmakers that are happy to take bets but then do their utmost not to pay?
I kind of half blame the gambling commission for allowing it, to be honest with you. What would you say? Yeah, I think some of the terms and conditions are obviously illegal. There's a million things. There's a million things, to be honest with you. No one wants to hear my sob stories about not being paid on bets and stuff like that. So,
well, we do a little bit.
I don't know. I think there's a bit of both sides. You can see arguments from both sides. I don't think bookmakers should be able to lay, even myself, when I'm laying bets, I don't think bookmakers should be able to lay customers that are going to lose 10% to them and anyone else they won't touch. I think there's got to be some kind of meeting in the middle with everything. There's two sides to every story, and I think if you're just going to rinse people, I wouldn't want to be a bookmaker, and I'd imagine it's quite isolating for some of the people that own some of the major bookmakers as well. Like if you've built this little brand from a little porter cabin or whatever up into an absolute giant, I'd imagine when you're at the head of that table and you've got more money than you can ever have dreamed of in your life, I'd imagine it's quite isolating, and you're trying to protect everything, and anyone who's attacking you, from even the relative crumbs that some people like myself would have been taking off people. I think you've just got to suck it up as a cost of business. Like I wouldn't want to have billions of pounds. It'd make me uncomfortable, to be honest with you. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I think UK bookmakers have probably got away with a lot of things, and there's a lot of focus on it now at the moment. And I'm obviously not anti-gambling. It's basically changed my life. It's given me a better life than I could ever imagine. So I absolutely love gambling. It is my life, really, and bookmaking and everything around it. I absolutely love it. But I just think some of the practices are just pretty appalling. And I think a lot of it is when, well, not with some, but I think a lot of it changed massively when bookmakers went onto the stock market, and it became about the next quarter and getting as many customers as possible, rather than just being a bit more ethical, just in general. But yeah, like I've no regrets about anything I've ever done, and yeah, I can sleep easy at night. And some bets you don't get paid on, and anyone who's ever had a bet with me has always been paid, and anyone I've owed money to, I've always paid, even if, you know. So that'd be my thoughts on it. But
I mean, can the bookmakers even be expected to know where the money's coming from? Should that even be a privilege that they've been, should they get the ump because they don't know where the money's coming from? But should that make a difference?
Well, should it make the difference? I think you should have proper risk management systems in place for it, especially if you're a billionaire. You should be able to protect yourself. We all know the holes in your websites. You should be able to protect yourself better. And if somebody smarter than you in one instance comes in and teaches you how to be better, you should pay them and learn the lesson, is what I'd be thinking. Like, I was interested in when that Paul Merson documentary was on BBC the other night, and everybody's talking about, there was one part of it where he said that when he was losing money, and he was saying, I'm putting 2,000 in there, 2,000, and then my sister sent me $3,000 and she put it in. Well, I bet the bookmakers didn't void all these bets because the sister sent him $3,000. So they apply rules, but they apply them in certain instances, basically to stop people who are winning to pay them out. And we all know that happens. And I'm not comfortable with it. And people might not be comfortable with me betting in other people's names. And should we all have our own individual stances on it, basically? But yeah, I couldn't just find ways not to pay people and then just take people's money. It wouldn't sit comfortably with me, but I'm sure there's stuff I do that people aren't massively comfortable with. But like, they would be my rules for life anyway. If someone who beats me, I'm going to pay them out and close the loophole, basically, and carry on with my life.
Now you've talked about your current business model. You've got a network of people that can get your bets on for you. Is there an increased risk that, just similar to what we've just talked about, that there's going to be reams and reams of smaller and smaller print? That means if you do have it spark off, they're going to point to some tiny little clause in the future, in the way you do it as the head of a team.
I've been paid on every bet I've ever done since 2018. So I kind of adapt. I'm sure there's stuff that I'm doing now that somebody's going to find some issue with at some point when they realize what they're losing and just not pay out. And I'll have to adapt my strategy to that something. But at the moment, everything works. Everything worked prior to not being paid out on other stuff. And then as soon as something doesn't work, you change your strategy. Like I say, I get on with every bookmaker on Oddschecker. But they don't know where it's coming from, and they're just constantly, I suppose they're constantly closing accounts, but we have ways to keep them open longer and stuff like that. I'd like to work with bookmakers, I suppose, but it's just like I was explaining earlier in the part one. Just there's no marks anymore. There's nobody to teach you, and this is why I feel quite lucky that I started in the industry when I did, because if I made a mistake, I laid it, and I knew why I was wrong, and I could get better. If you're a trader now in a bookmaker's firm, you're hiding behind palp errors, you're hiding behind a million different things. You're not laying winning customers, basically. How do you learn? How do you get better? You're going to be sat in that chair for the next 40 years, getting your 2% inflation rise every single year, and you're not going to do anything with your life, I don't think, apart from whatever, not work-wise. And I just didn't want to do that, basically. So, yeah.
Right, you said that you don't really back horses anymore. So what sport is your main focus these days?
Fuck. There's a few sports I bet on, basically. My highest ROI edge is amusingly greyhounds, but I don't bet greyhound races. I just bet greyhound derbies. So I bet on the English greyhound derby and I bet on the Irish greyhound derby every single year. And I build up big bucks and I put a lot of work into it. And I can beat, I think the last derby I lost on was the 2017 English derby or something like that. It was a while ago. And I just focus on the events where you can get money on. If there's a sport where you can get money, I find sport in general, Simon, to be honest with you, outside of horses and dogs, you've got an SP to benchmark you against very quickly. And if you beat it, you're gone. Whereas I think in sport, there's a little bit more nuance and there's usually higher limits. And I think even bookmakers just have it in the head that horse racing can be fixed or parts of it can be fixed. And I think they have it with dogs as well. Whereas I think in sport, people generally think sport can't be fixed and you get higher limits, you get a longer run. If I win on sports, I don't get my accounts closed straight away and I just gravitate to where I can get more money on and less hassle for accounts. And it tends not to be in horse racing and greyhound racing. So that's kind of the way I'd be looking at it. I'd be doing a lot of football. Quantity-wise, football is probably the biggest.
And do you have a sort of a go-to brains trust for each sport? If you spotted the market, we think, there's a Rick there, good opportunity. Have you got like a person in that sport that you would collaborate with and sort of ask them to look into it a bit deeper, or do you do it all yourself?
I used to do it all myself, but it's probably taken a lot more time than it should have done. So I kind of came out of my shell a little bit more to trying to deal with people. Just I can bounce any sport off different people, basically. It's kind of like an informal thing. It's not like and if we both spot something, we'll then plan how to get down and split the belt. Basically, I don't need every single piece of pie. Like I'm well aware of the positives and advantages of working with a network of people and smart people, basically. And I think everyone can win. Like everyone can win gambling if they want to put their mind to it. But I think not a lot of people can scale it. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to scale it and just trying to get as much out of it as I can so I can retire early, I suppose.